look at the teams with actual expectations, I went through the whole list of the 16 squads that started off with a loss, and I do believe I've narrowed down the one team that has the most to gain from a win this weekend in week 2 of the NFL. That not only has the most to gain, they might have the most to lose from failing to pick up a win this weekend in the NFL. I know a lot of people are looking around at the Bengals as the team who needs to bounce back in week 2. I mean, they looked horrible against New England, dropping the game as the favorite, the heaviest favorite in week 1. Of course, that is an easy target, but I see who they're going up against. They're going up against the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. I think that's an uphill climb for a team that is not all the way cohesive yet and is not playing good football. I don't look at that as a must-win for them. It'd be nice if they stayed close. We'll get back to the Bengals, though, because the real team that cannot afford to suffer a loss, they are in most dire need of a bounce back in week 2. It's actually Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. The same Cardinals that had the Bills on the ropes, had them down 14, one of 3 teams to hold a 14-point lead in week 1 and then surrender it for a loss. The same Cardinals who Kyler Murray had the ball in his hands at the end, a potential game-winning drive against the Buffalo Bills after they mounted that comeback. And as he's scurrying around behind his offensive line looking for a target, the guy that the Arizona Cardinals picked, number 4 overall in the NFL draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., was dancing around wide open, just literally like butt naked open. Sometimes people say somebody's wide open in the NFL or in college football or whatnot, and there's like a defender within 10 yards, within 5 yards. So, yes, it's open, but maybe with the NFL speed, maybe with, an errant throw, he's able to make up ground and catch up to him. Marvin Harrison Jr. was so open for that touchdown. I mean, Kyler could have punted it to him. You and I, Damian, could have connected on that throw. All you had to do was throw it in the general area, and this guy who was a generational prospect, the one guy coming out of this draft who they said is a generational can't-miss prospect, and he didn't find that guy for a touchdown. And the reason why I say the Cardinals, who are going to host the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday in the second slate of games, a 4 o'clock kick out there in Glendale, Arizona. The reason why the Cardinals are the team who are most in need of a bounce back in week 2 of the NFL is because they got the Lions in week 3 at home. And the way that the Lions bullied the Rams on Sunday Night Football in that final drive, and it's cohesive, the amount of continuity that the Lions have and the amount of bully ball that they're able to provide on both sides of the ball, the offensive and defensive front, I've already got that chalked up as a loss. I don't think the Cardinals stand a chance the way that they looked on the latter end of that game against the Bills in week 1 against the Lions. So if they do lose this Sunday against the Rams, and if Kyler Murray can't get his act all the way together, he's not only going to start to lose the confidence of the fans, he's not already going to be facing an 0-3 deficit heading into this year, but everybody's going to be putting the blame on number 1 for the reason why we're not getting production out of that guy that you spent that high of draft capital on in Marvin Harrison Jr., who is supposed to be, again, can't miss and generational. Here's Kyler Murray, too, because a lot of the times when you can tell somebody's dire or when you can tell things are, your back's against the wall, you also feel the pressure that week 2 is highly important. After the game, Kyler Murray was questioned about how Marvin Harrison Jr. had 1 catch and 4 yards, how Marvin Harrison Jr., who was wide tail open for a game-winning touchdown, didn't get that ball thrown in his direction. And look at how defensive, just take a listen to this, how defensive and also almost answerless Kyler Murray is trying to respond.
Yeah, you play football, like, there's a lot of stuff moving around. You're moving fast, like, you don't see everything.
What were they doing to take away Marvin?
Honestly, man, I wouldn't say they were just taking them away. I think, I'm just, as a quarterback, obviously you're going through your read. Sometimes the ball goes to him, but that's not, it's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and a feel for guys when they don't get the ball and when they're, when they are getting the ball. But, I leave that up to Drew. Drew always, he tells me don't worry about that type of stuff. Just keep playing your game and, get the ball to where the ball's supposed to go.
Now, if you're Kyler Murray, you kind of have to say some of those things, but also if you're a Cardinals fan, if you're Marvin Harrison Jr., and even if you are himself, the franchise quarterback, the guy that they signed that mega extension to, even though it came with some stipulations, Damian, you're aware of the stipulations around the Kyler Murray contract stuff where they told him he couldn't play video games?
I am aware.
Like,
the fact that you got to put that in a contract should be a red flag, in my opinion.
It is. It's a red flag for Kyler Murray.
It just speaks on his discipline.
But it speaks on his discipline. He's already been a guy that there's been questions around whether or not he is a rallying leader, a guy that people in his locker room are like, oh, that's our guy. We want to win for him. We want to play hard for him. I don't have the answers to that. I honestly don't care about that because the production with Kyler Murray has been so tantalizing in his career. It's just also been so volatile. It's been so inconsistent. And when you're that size and you rely so much on your athleticism, I'm not sure how long Kyler Murray's prime is going to last. And he talked about Drew. Drew is the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. Drew Petzing, he's stepping in there to try and call the plays there and direct that Cardinals offense, the new look offense with all the new weapons and whatnot. But the main thing I look at here, the reason why week 2 is going to be so important for Kyler Murray, if he doesn't start getting Marvin Harrison Jr. involved, the blame is going to be looked on him. How do you feel like Kyler Murray is? Because I feel like people will start to act like he's one of these young dudes who has a lot of time and space ahead of him in the NFL.
If I were to guess right now, I'd say he's 25.
He's 27 years old. Kyler Murray's 27. The same age as Joe Burrow, who people think also has so much time and space ahead of them except for Chris Canty. We're going to get to Joe Burrow and the Bengals as well because they do have to look better in week 2. They don't have to get a win in week 2 in a form of a bounce back, but they do have to look better if you're going to consider yourself a serious contender in the AFC, which is what they want to pose themselves to be. I don't think that roster's cut out to be so this year, but internally, that's what they believe. That's what they think of themselves, so they're going to have to show up at Arrowhead Stadium. But Kyler Murray's 27 years old. He does have the extension. He does have, right now, the confidence of that locker room and his head coaching staff. But again, it starts to get late really early when you have a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. who is considered infallible, who is out there running wide open. That tape is going to look bad. When people have screen grabs of that and are showing that for the next few weeks, it's going to look bad. And you have to now, if you're the Cardinals, strike big. You are the team right now with the biggest spotlight on you to get a win in week 2 because you're welcoming in the Los Angeles Rams, who right now are not in full form right now. You got a team that just lost Puka Nacua. Matthew Stafford and them were literally like on Sunday Night Football fighting for their lives. The Rams defense was fighting for their lives. I don't know how quick that overtime drive was the Lions had, where they just literally marched it right down the field, right up the throats of the Rams defense. But they had their way at that point. This is the time, if you're going to get the win against the Rams at home in week 2 without Puka Nacua, is your chance to do so. And the onus is on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense. They can't get a 14-point lead again and blow it, because one guy that's always going to be in the game is a guy like Matthew Stafford with that arm and Cooper Kupp. You see exactly what kind of game they're cooking up out there. Sean McVay ain't one to play with. The Cardinals need to win this weekend more than any other team that started off the week or started off the year 0-1. Who needs to bounce back in week 2 in the NFL the most? To me, it's clearly the Arizona Cardinals, and it's going to come in the form of a better performance from Kyler Murray, and I'm talking about all 4 quarters. It can't just be the first half. 888-760-3776. 888-760-3776. Hit us up on the Baptist Health Hotline. Who in the NFL who started off 0-1 is in most dire need of a bounce-back week 2 as we get underway with the second week of play in the National Football League? And those Dolphins, they were almost in this conversation. The Jaguars had them on the ropes. Like, I am glad it worked out this past weekend at Hard Rock Stadium. They're going to need some more of that luck tonight against the Buffalo Bills. Hit us up on the Baptist Health Hotline, 888-760-3776. That's the number to tap into Theoretically Speaking. Are you experiencing foot and ankle pain and need to see an expert in the field? Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has a team of foot and ankle orthopedic surgeons and specialists who are regarded as leaders in their specialty. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho to learn more today. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care combines its resources of experienced physicians and leading-edge treatment and technology to provide advanced orthopedic, foot and ankle, joint replacement, spine, and sports medicine care. Visit baptisthealth.net/ortho for more information today. Baptist Health Orthopedic Care has offices conveniently located in Palm Beach County through the Florida Keys. Learn more by visiting baptisthealth.net/ortho. Who is in most dire need to be able to get in there, to get into this week 2 of the NFL and not start off 0-2? Now, I have some stats, some facts here that back the dire situation that some teams are when they drop the first week of the NFL season. Damian, there's actually only been 3 teams in the history of the NFL to start 0-2 and go on to win the Super Bowl. Just 3. So while I don't feel like there's a lot of panic around Baltimore with the Ravens, I did get a response on social media. You can hit us up at Theo Dorsey TV or at ESPN West Palm. I did get some Ravens responses. I mean, they lost to the Chiefs by the skin of Isaiah Likely's toe in the back of the end zone there. And plus,
with the Ravens,
Chiefs,
similar to the Bengals, with the Ravens, the fact is that they have the Kansas City Chiefs in front of them, and they can never beat them, regardless of if it's because of a toe, because of a touchdown. It's just this pattern that we've seen, similar to how Miami can't play in cold games and playoff games. The Ravens just can't figure it out against the Chiefs.
See, but I don't think that's a good enough excuse, because it's like saying, he can't beat Father Time. Or oh, man, gravity keeps on, afflicting, whatever, like the ball that's falling out of the sky. Like, it's inevitable. The Chiefs are the best team in the league. They have the best quarterback. There's a wide chasm between Mahomes and the next guy. So saying the Ravens can't beat the Chiefs,
definitely, but I think
just
it's also,
doesn't matter.
I think it's also a mental thing. Like, I feel like it's gotten to a point where it's just a mental game that they just can't seem to shake off, to brush off against these Chiefs. It's like they almost shiver when they see the game on the schedule.
Well, they can't play the Chiefs tomorrow, right? They can't play the Chiefs this weekend. They do get to play the Raiders, the Ravens do, and they're at home. And if there's any way to kind of, shake off a hangover, if there's any way to get over the bad taste in your mouth from a loss that you feel like you had in the clasp of your hand, play the Raiders at home. Like, that's a layup.
At home.
It's a layup.
It's a beautiful setup.
And that's why I say I don't feel the Ravens are in most need of a bounce back in week 2. I think that they're being gifted a bounce back against the Raiders. They'll have to show up more so week 3 when you have a Sunday afternoon date with the Dallas Cowboys. That's when I'm going to be more locked in on what are the Ravens doing. I think that this game, it's more so just, hey, make it through. Stay healthy. Keep Lamar and Derrick Henry healthy. They're going to probably pound the rock like 30, 40 times against the Raiders. It's exactly what the Chargers did.
I would love to see Derrick Henry get more involved and get more touches.
Yeah, and he will. He absolutely will. They're going to have their way likely with the Raiders. I think that's the biggest spread in week 2. So the Ravens to me can't be considered on this list, mainly because it doesn't feel like a game or a matchup that holds any amount of significance. Now, a team that is entering a situation like that is the Cincinnati Bengals. And when you're coming off of a week where you set the wrong kind of records. Like, they're setting records in the opposite direction. Like, I saw some percentages and some stats on how many Survivor Leagues had everybody drop out at once because they picked the Bengals against the Patriots in week 1. You don't want to be that team, especially if you're the team that's also posing yourself as a championship contender. Joe Burrow is 27 years old. Looks like he's going through a midlife crisis, man, with the new haircut. He's trying to pose as like Slim Shady. He thinks he's like cool and cute and fun. He's doing all of these, he's gearing up for social media posts before the game. He's thinking he's going to walk right over the Patriots. And you got to remember, the Patriots are always going to be a tough out, even if it's not Bill Belichick over there and it's Gerard Mayo. He's a guy that was on that staff. Nothing's changed in New England, though they are lacking talent. But the Bengals are going to be at the Chiefs this weekend. They're 5.5-point dogs at the Chiefs. And Joe Burrow looks like he might have a hand issue. And also, Joe Burrow has missed at least, so out of the 4 seasons Joe Burrow has played, he's had season-ending injuries twice. That's half of the years that he's actually suited up and been a starting quarterback for the Bengals. And I'm not the only one that's a little out on Cincinnati. Earlier this morning on Unsportsmanlike, you hear it 6 to 10 a.m. weekdays here on ESPN 106.3. Evan Cohen, Michelle Smallman, and the Super Bowl champion Chris Canty. Now, Canty, I trust a lot of his football wisdom because the dude has done it. He also watches a heck of a lot of ball. And he said something that I probably was a little too fearful to say, but he voiced it so eloquently on not just thinking that Joe Burrow might have already had his best season already the year that the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, but also that Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals might need to be a team that more of us are pulling out on.
I am concerned about the version of Joe Burrow that we're going to see from now until the end of his career, because this wrist injury is something that we don't have a lot of history with quarterbacks being able to bounce back from in the NFL. We just haven't seen it. So I am not going to believe it until I see it. And that's why sitting here today, I'm selling all the Bengals stock and I'm selling all my Joe Burrow stock.
All of it?
All of it.
Not keeping a couple of shares?
I'm not hedging. I'm telling you, man, it just something feels different about this slow start that the Bengals are getting out to as opposed to the slow starts that we've seen in the past.
Now, I would caution Canty on this. You're not getting much for that Bengals stock right now. And you also won't get much after this weekend, because I do think they're going to get their doors blown off against Kansas City, even though these two teams play each other close all the time. Like, you can run on the Bengals this year. That's a depleted defense. They're a run funnel. You can have your way, and Isaiah Pacheco is going to be lined up to do just that. But also, this Chiefs offense has evolved from last year, and Patrick Mahomes has new weapons that he's using in ways that the Bengals are going to have to prepare for with a void in talent on that side. And then you look at the other side, there's question marks around the T. Higgins situation. Jamar Chase still hasn't been paid, and Joe Burrow has a hand injury. They are in a weird situation in Cincinnati right now. I will wait a couple of weeks. They got the Commanders after this. They got the Panthers after that as well. They might stack a couple of wins. But, Damian, Joe Burrow, he's 1-8 in weeks 1 and 2 in his NFL career so far. Like, he's bad at the beginning of seasons, and the Bengals have been since he and Zach Taylor have been a tandem out there.
Yeah, but like Canty said, I feel like this year it's different. It's a different feeling. It's a different vibe. I mean, we saw he was trying to pick up, what was it, a water bottle?
Yeah.
On the bench, and he struggled picking it up, like if it was too heavy for him.
He addressed that, by the way. I didn't read as much into that. I read more into the fact that the whole game Joe Burrow's doing this, where he's like grasping.
It was obviously bothering him.
Clenching his hand. He really has a problem right now with his wrist, with his grip, on his throwing hand, and he's a quarterback. How could you not be red alert, high levels of concern about that?
They don't have Joe Mixon to just hand the ball off and take care of the dirty work.
Yeah. The Bengals, out of all of the teams that at least fancy themselves as contenders, there's going to be some Jets fans that are, throwing up the caution and getting a little alerted and getting a little out of their skin because of what they saw, because of how bullied they were on primetime television. The Bengals, though, Damian, I feel like that's the team where you should be most concerned, and it's not just about this year. It's about the future of that franchise, because you have your star receiver in Jamar Chase, who can't seem to work out a deal with the front office. And I know he's 2 years out from getting his deal, but you made that exception for Joe Burrow. And then you look at Burrow, who's 27 years old, and in the AFC right now, given Joe Burrow's injury concerns, given the fact that he hasn't even had that super high level of production during the regular season outside of that you would want from a franchise quarterback, from a guy that is leading your team to what you would hope to be Super Bowls down the line. And then you look at the AFC too. You're looking at all these young guns that are coming up. C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. I mean, who knows what Trevor Lawrence could maybe become? And they're naming stadiums after him. We're going to get to that soon. That's crazy to me.
The Chiefs got better on offense.
Chiefs got better. You got Mahomes there still. Josh Allen is going to get a revamped Bills team. This is probably the year where it's easiest to take down the Bills, and the Bengals aren't even poised to do so. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Like, the AFC is so stacked, specifically at the quarterback position, that if I'm a Bengals fan and if I'm that Bengals front office right now, I'm actually concerned. People are railing on the big homie Chris Canty right now for his take on the Bengals. I don't think he's far off base, and sometimes it's better to be ahead of these things than behind it. The Bengals are in dire trouble. They need to be the ones on high alert right now on how are we going to pivot, what are we going to do if Joe Burrow has another one of these years where injuries are a concern. He's starting the year off looking hobbled, looking hindered already. If this is another season where Joe Burrow can't finish the season and the Bengals miss the playoffs, there's way less room for error in the AFC right now. The Bengals, they need to bounce back in week 2. But they just need to bounce back in general. And that might come with some health. That might come with just getting some recovery over Joe Burrow, because I don't know where else it comes from, especially, again, with the question marks around the receiving weapons out there in Cincinnati. Damian, it is week 2 of the NFL. We have today is going to be exciting because on the back end we're going to have our family pull up. We got Dean Thomas coming through before UFC weekend. We're going to have Tina for the happy hour later on. I know we just got in the chat here from Jalen that C-Cat already burning through that PTO. Yeah, C-Cat's off. He's off to the Amalfi Coast out there in Italy having a good time. And you know what? He deserves it. This is the one weekend where as a Ravens fan you can do it because nobody is questioning the outcome of what's going to happen in Baltimore.
You think he's going to watch that game on Sunday?
I hope not.